Hey, what's up, everybody? Fred Minnick here. I'm about to jump into a tasting of the limited edition series from Barrell Craft Spirits. Now, you're going to see those here in a second, but I just kind of want to tell you why I'm running through. You're going to see a lot more reviews from me in the next couple weeks. I'm trying to pin down my top 100. So my top 100, which I have scheduled for a blind taste-off on December 20th. I'm in the process of weeding out what I don't want in there, what qualifies for me, which is, to me, it's a little bit of excitement, also flavor profile, obviously. And so I'm going, frantically through all these tastings. And so that's why you're seeing a lot more of these, and maybe with a little bit scaled down production. But I also think that, this setup here, it's not slacking here. But at any rate, so Barrell Craft Spirits, a couple years ago, they started coming out with a gray label. In 2018, it was my best American whiskey. I wrote about that in Forbes. You can see that in the link and the description. That was in 2018. Batch 11 also won San Francisco World Spirits Competition, and I think that was 2016 or 17. So that was their batch 11 before they did a limited edition small batch. And last year, of course, Seagrass came in second in my blind tasting, and that was their standard Seagrass offering. And so Barrell Craft Spirits has always, in my opinion, has always done really well in blind competitions, because there's a couple factors they have going for them. One, their cask strength products tend to do better in blind competitions, simply because they can stand out a little bit more after the palate has been beat up, if you will, after tasting 200-300 products. And another thing is they have done a really good job with blending. They're a really good blending house. They've kind of created their own style, and they get, and now that they're doing a lot more of these barrel finishes, they're doing things that really no one else is doing, like doing a triple finish using something like Madeira and apricot brandy barrels. That's just, people haven't been doing that. So they really push the envelope when it comes to just about everything, whether it's blending or whether it's barrel finishes. And there's a lot of barrel products that I have not liked, and it's usually in these limited edition products. I have found a major metallic note in a lot of them. So yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna taste this lot right here. Now make sure you go into my descriptions. You will find a lot more information on these products, as well as some disclosures. These products were provided to me by the blending house. So let's take a look at these. You got the Vantage. This is a rather new one. It's a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys finished in Madeira, French, and toasted American oak. You got the standard gray label Seagrass. That is a rye finished in Martinique, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels. This is 16 years old, so we'll see where that one goes. And then we've got this gray label, this gold label here. Excited to see what that one's all about. That's been what they've been putting a lot of effort in. 102 proof. That's pretty low for Barrell. Dovetail, which was one of their really their first hit out of the park with the barrel finishes, and of course Seagrass, their gold label of Seagrass. So let's go ahead and jump into those. I'm going to start with, let's see, what do I want to start with? This is one where like my palate can get really messed up with Madeira if they went too heavy on that. So I'm going to start with a gold label of bourbon. So this is what I'm going to start with here. Just the standard. It's not the standard. It's the gold label bourbon, 102.2 proof. Only 6,744 bottles. Or no, correction. This is bottle 6,744. Okay. Okay. Not real. The nose is very minerally for me. Like there's some tobacco in there as well. Got a real mineral. Just not a. Just like opening up a bucket of minerals. So on the palate, it's really. I'm having a hard time describing it. So dehydrated oranges, some almonds. Not quite sure what else is here, but it's definitely not a hitter for me. This is one that feels very. It's not all there, if you will. It's not feeling pleasant on the palate. It's just kind of the flavors aren't there for me, and this mineral, this over dehydrated orange. I don't want to say Flintstone vitamin or anything like that, because it's not that. It's over citrusy. If you ever burnt your tongue on like having too much citrus, that's what this feels like for me. I'll taste it again to make sure I'm just not giving it a fair shake or something. Yeah, so the Gold Label bourbon just not winning over my palate. Very mineral on the nose, very dehydrated orange on the palate. Those things are not pleasant for me in this tasting experience. So I'm going to have to say overall, not on that one. I will say I would take batch 34, which we've now killed 2 bottles in our household, over this one. So that's batch 34 of Barrell Bourbon. So now let's go to the next one. This was actually not in the photo earlier that I showed, but this is the Gray Label Dovetail. Gray Label Dovetail, which is whiskey, not necessarily bourbon, finished in rum, port, and Dunn Vineyards Cabernet barrels. Again, you can go into the descriptions. I will have more information on each one of these in there. This is about the taste and flavor profile. Smells very blackberry. Blackberry, some nuts in there. I would say that this one is the Cabernet barrel is very powerful on this one. A lot of those blackberry, black currant notes. There's a ton of spice in this one as well. A lot of cardamom, a lot of cinnamon. And this is the Barrell Craft Spirits Dovetail. Just a lot of different stuff going on here. And it finishes really with this beautiful blackberry pie note. I rather like that a lot. Okay, so now what do I go to? Since I started in the Dovetail, go ahead and grab that one. Now this is the Gold Label. Also whiskey finished in rum, port, and Dunn Vineyards barrels. This is 140 proof, whereas the last one was 131 proof. So a lot of alcohol up in here. Ah, jeez, I just spilled that all over myself. Clean up on aisle 5. Okay. So when you're running through a tasting like this, and you're just a one-man show, kind of like what I got set up here, one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you're not doing anything else on your computer in the event that you spill something. Well, of course, I never follow those rules. I'm in the middle of uploading some interviews and downloading something while I'm recording this straight into my computer. And my computer's like going, "Arr!" And I just spilled water on my bourbon on my external hard drive. So could be some flames popping on up in here. All right, so the Dovetail Gold Label. Very fruity, much like the last one. The power of the alcohol is not as intense as you would think. It actually feels very velvety on the palate. Much like the last one, there's a lot of blackberry notes in here. I'm not getting any of those cabernet. I don't feel like the Cabernet Sauvignon barrel is dominating. Rather, I feel like this has got a lot of the whiskey is kind of showing through. This feels, I will say, this one feels very much like the port and rum barrel kind of like took over, and the Cabernet barrel was like, oh, come on, guys, let me in, let me play. I get a lot of molasses notes in this. I get a lot of apricot in here, and those are two notes I often will associate with rum, obviously with the molasses, and apricot with the port. But the alcohol, you can feel the power of the alcohol on the cheeks. Sometimes, if you're new to whiskey, and when a high proof alcohol feels really good on your tongue, and that's great. That's a sign of a good thing. But your cheeks do not, unless you just constantly drink straight from the barrel and always have high proof whiskey, and your cheeks are not always ready for that high octane. So I can definitely feel the alcohol power on my cheeks kind of curling into my gums a little bit. So that is a way that you can personally tell what a proof is, just like how it feels in your cheeks. Overall, I definitely like the gold label one over the gray label Dovetail. I find it to be pretty incredible for the proof. I saw 140 proof. I'm not always a high proof guy. Like, I like 120, 130, sign me up all day long. 140 proof, I tend to get a little like, I don't know if I want that. So now let's go to our next one up here. When we see, we want to go into the Seagrass yet? Or let's go to the Vantage. All right, let's do some Vantage. So this was a favorite of a friend of mine. His name's Max. He's in my cigar club. He's a very opinionated whiskey geek. And he's opinionated on bourbon, and he's opinionated on U of L sports. And every time I see Vantage, I think of this WhatsApp thread we had where he was talking about somebody in the U of L program was trash and garbage, and then he just kind of followed up with, oh, by the way, Barrell Vantage is really good, Fred. You got to check it out. I was just like, this is the epitome of of my world. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, the bourbon's very good. I don't know. I always get a kick out of that. But so Barrell Vantage is a blend of straight bourbon, finished in Madeira, which is a Japanese oak, French and toasted American oak. Wow, that smells amazing. A lot of caramel, a lot of vanilla, some sawdust in there. But overall, it smells like it's going to be very sweet. On the palate, this thing just kind of walks right up on the sides of my tongue. It kind of, the way it hits my tongue is it gets in the middle and like, oh, hey, what's up? And then it gets right on the sides of the tongue, kind of curls up underneath. Feels very bitter, like the inside of a pecan shell. There's some brown sugar notes here. Not the kind of brown sugar like in a butter, but like the kind of brown sugar you would see like in baked beans, like maybe some clumpy brown sugar. There's just a hint of chocolate here, but I'm enamored by the way it feels, this bitterness feeling on the tongue. It's rather pleasant. I like bitter. I do. I like chocolate bitters. I like bitter. I mean, in the right mood, I'd like drinking pickle juice, and that's bitter as shit. So I think so far of everything that I've tasted, Vantage is by far my favorite. I think it is balanced. If you are someone who likes bitterness, this is like a dream bourbon for you, or a dream blend of straight bourbons for you. But I really, really dig it. I still think that I might like batch 34 better, but I kind of fell in love with batch 34 a lot. And that's kind of became a house bourbon because you can go to the store and buy it, and we have a couple times. All right, so now let's go to the last pair. Right, so you got your seagrasses here. Of course, seagrass is won second place in my best American whiskey last year. So I'm going to start with the 16-year version. Now you can see the particles in there, a little flocking going on. I don't know if you can tell. You see the flocking? Flocking is like the little cloud. You may not be able to tell in the camera, but there's a little cloud going on there. That is the fatty acids. It's a small little cloud. Oh, for shits and giggles and for your education purposes, I'll put an article in the description so you know what that is. But essentially, it's that's why they do chill filtration. Okay, so seagrass, 16 years old. Rye whiskey, finished in Martinique, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels. And this nose smells like a lumber yard. Whew. Oh boy. That is. That feels. I was not ready for that. That is a funk on which I have never tasted in American whiskey. That is funky. I mean, if I were tasting this blind, I would not guess this was a rye whiskey. Of course, it's had a lot of barrel finishes going on there. And I do not believe... Nope. That one's hard. That one is hard to get behind. My tongue has just been decimated. This is a this is a palate killer. Wow. I'm obviously not a fan of this one, but I'll tell you who would be a fan of it. People who are really into crazy, the dusty note. This has like a little bit of that dusty note there. It's very bitter. It's very funky. I also think I'm a big fan of rum. I love rum. And there is a region of Jamaica that puts out like a wild yeast style rum. Hampton is a really good example. And there's a funkiness to it. That funkiness is appealing to me in rum because there's the other parts of rum balance that. But this has that component to it, but it doesn't have anything else to balance it there. So it's really woody on the nose, and it's got like this incredibly crazy funk on the palate that just does not do it for me. I'm gonna try the next one here, the Gold Label. I'm gonna try the Gold Label Seagrass now, and yeah. So this is. This is also finished in Martinique, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels. Okay, so this is the Gold Label of Seagrass from Barrell. We've been tasting the limited edition line here. The gray label from Seagrass was crazy for me. Very much like walking into a lumber mill and being way over funky for me. The Gold Label, more like it, more my jam. Not nearly as aggressive as the Gray Label, but there is some, obviously I can smell the oak there, but I can also smell some butterscotchiness. I smell some cinnamon red hots. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's more my jam. It just goes straight to the back of my palate, lighting it up. I'm feeling all kinds of spice. But I want to say it's like I'm tasting several variations of cinnamon spice. So this is like a cinnamon bomb, and then you get some sweetness. I get like this. I mentioned this in a rye whiskey review recently. A Willet product, a Kamishi brand, the collaboration I did with Kings of Leon, and I get like this piece of sugar cane, like the little sugar cane piece that they will cut and put into a cocktail. I get a little bit of that, and it is really, really, really splendid. Finishes exceptional, long and strong, with a beautiful hint of cinnamon. So if I'm ranking this entire limited edition lot, I think it goes without saying my dead last is going to be the Gray Label Seagrass. I mean, if you like funk, you might really like that one. And then from there, I would say the next three are kind of really close, but my top two are definitely the Vantage and the Gold Label Seagrass. And if I were to choose, which, hey, that's what I do here, right? I choose. We'll see what I would pick as my favorite here. right, so this is, I'm going back in to taste the Barrell Vantage. Versus the Barrell Seagrass Gold Label. And I think I give the nod to... It's close. Well, I thought I was going to give the nod to Vantage, but then this finish of Seagrass came in strong. Yeah, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Seagrass. The Gold Label Seagrass gets a slight edge for me. Very close second is Vantage, but I think both of them would do exceptional in the blind tasting, and they probably will be in my, top 100 blind tasting. So we'll find out. That's going to do it here for this taste off. But lot more coming. Make sure you click that subscribe button, and reminder if you want to see more of them come up. Thank you for tuning in. Have a happy holiday week. Have a great rest of 2022. And remember, vodka sucks. Cheers, y'all.